Hey everyone, my name is KryptoCal, and welcome to the next episode of All the Mods 9. In the last episode, we went ahead and set up this awesome mystical agriculture setup that is generating us all sorts of different resources. Now, I haven't really added too many more seeds in between episodes because, frankly, we haven't really needed them. One seed for each so far is really enough, and it's going to be easy to scale these up if we have to, and we probably will for some resources, but I've just figured that we'll add seeds here as we end up needing them. We also have, obviously, our crafters here, which are crafting all of the resources from mystical agriculture up into our different resources like redstone and all the ingots. And over here, we have our semi-automated setup for crafting seeds up using some modular routers. And on this side, we have kind of the exact same thing that's keeping all of our essences stocked up here for the awakening setup. In between episodes, not a lot has gone into the mystical project. What has been happening is an absolute ton of building. I went and added this massive piece of land on top of the main mountain. As you remember, this was just all flat here beforehand. I'm pretty happy with how this ended up turning out. It's quite substantially large. If we come around the back here, it's not the prettiest, but basically, I just wanted a raised platform to kind of continue my project. What I've been doing up here is kind of planning out a couple of things that are going to be coming within the next couple episodes or so. As you may not know, if you don't know what my skin is from, I am a huge fan of the Legend of Zelda series. But more specifically, I fell in love with the Breath of the Wild Hyrule Castle. I just loved the whole design, and I just loved the way the entire place felt, even though there was a bunch of corruption and Ganon everywhere. So I decided to kind of loosely base my base off of that Hyrule Castle from Breath of the Wild. Now, obviously, it's not going to be exactly the same, but what I'm going to be doing is taking a few elements from the actual castle that I liked, and I'm going to try and implement them into my base. So if you hadn't guessed it, this middle area here is going to be the main sanctum / tower. If you've played Breath of the Wild, that's where you end up going to fight Ganon at the end of the game.
Spoilers, man.
So that's kind of what I've decided this area is going to be. Now, obviously, I'm going to try and combine aesthetics with function because I'm not just hopefully going to be building all of this just aesthetically. I'm going to want to fill it with all of the modded stuff that we're going to have. I also have a loose plan over here to have a separate tower, but just for now, know that that is the kind of the loose plan, and that's where we're going to be going in the next couple episodes or so. Also between episodes, Grace found a bighorn sheep from the Twilight Forest and decided to name it Jeb.
I made a bighorn sheep. Oh, the transformation powder. That's what I used on Jeb.
Who I guess is just going to live in the apiary from now on. You also have another friend from the Twilight Forest, do you not? Oh, sorry.
Well, he's not from the Twilight Forest.
The Twilight Forest.
He's from the overworld. His name is Button.
Grace also decided that she was wanting to get a couple more bees set up over here. So if you come over here, we can show what we have done. Apart from the Insanium bee, which we have had, and these guys have been absolutely working away. We have an absolute ton of Insanium now. We also have the Prospera bee, and these guys are producing us basically infinite prosperity shards because there's not really a great way to farm them automatically in any other way. The other thing that Grace was doing was, now that we have this awakening setup pretty much all finished, Grace noticed that we needed some stuff from what was the recipe that we needed?
The awakening setup to make Twilight Forest mini portal. That was what it was.
Yeah, the Awakening Altar has quite a few different uses, and we noticed that the Awakened Supremium Essence has quite a few uses that we need to craft up a bunch of items for the star, mainly being the Awakened Supremium Furnace, which is an actual recipe for, or it's a requirement for the Philosopher's Fuel. And we need this Awakened Supremium Paxel to make the Aldemodium Paxel if we ever want to get to the kind of the highest tier of tools in the game. The reason that we have so much of the Awakened Essence is because that is the last bee that Grace ended up crafting, which is the Awakened Supremium bee. And you craft the Awakened Supremium bee inside of the Awakening setup using some of the Awakened blocks and then also a Supremium bee. But yeah, the Awakened Supremium blocks are actually crafted using some of this cognizant dust. And the way you get cognizant dust is you enchant one of the tools, one of the swords from mystical agriculture, you enchant it with the Mystical Enlightenment enchantment, which we actually had in our library. We had quite a few levels of it already, just from crafting various books up. And if you go ahead and kill the Wither, it drops a various amount of Cognizant Dust, depending on the level of Mystical Enlightenment. So Grace went and killed the Wither a few times with the sword and got a good amount of the Cognizant Dust. Well, we only have 9 now, but we only needed enough just to get the bee. So now that we have the bee, the Cognizant Dust really is only used to make the Awakened Supremium block. So yeah, that's kind of what was going on in between episodes. So after having all those wannabes farming up all the different boss drops and stuff, the other episode with all the Cataclysm boss mobs that we were farming, we were interested to know whether or not we could actually figure out how to get the dragon trapped in an amber so that we could farm potentially the dragon scales from the dragon if it's one of the drops that we get, because that way we can use the dragon scales to make the dragon soul, which is one of the required things for the star. So what we're going to do is go to the main end island again. Let's go ahead and resummon the dragon here. Are you here, Grace, with the amber bees?
I am.
All right.
I'm here.
Let's hope we have enough bees and that they don't die to this, but we're going to see if this will work.
I promise.
Oh, there she is. She's perching. She's perching. She's perching. Go. They
The
flew.
bees are getting flung away. They are in her region. They're close to her.
Oh, it worked. It worked. It worked.
Did it actually?
It worked.
Guys, you guys are my favorites.
There's
All
no
of you are my
way.
children,
There's
and I
no
love you
way
all.
this actually works. There's no way. That's crazy.
That's kind of wild, but now we can't get back to the overworld without the...
And the dragon is still technically alive according to the game.
Take the money and run.
Can we
So the end is
resummon?
now officially off limits.
We're gonna be in trouble
Oh,
if
fine.
that doesn't fix it, because we have to get the simulator up, the simulators, to be able to have it give us the dragon's breath. So I'm hoping it's not working. I think we broke the game.
No, wait. Hear me out.
Oh wait, it's flying.
Wait.
Okay, that's a new dragon. It didn't do a summoning process. It just put it there. Definitely intentional game design. But anyway, we now have an amber encased ender dragon, which we're not going to put over a campfire, whatever we do. But now I really need to see what this actually produces, because I'm not 100% sure what we're going to get out of this. They didn't produce exactly what I expected them to produce. We got a bunch of this dragon skin from Iron Spells and Spellbooks, and a bunch of the Arcane Essence. But the dragon scales, this is from the Forbidden and Arcanist mod. I thought we'd be getting the dragon scales from Mystical, but unfortunately we're only getting the dragon scales. So while that it is cool that our amber bees have allowed us to farm the dragon, you could say, unfortunately we just aren't getting the drops that I thought we'd be getting, so probably not going to be the most useful thing ever, but it's still very cool. It's very cool that you can do that. So what is going to be the plan for this episode? The other day, we were kind of walking around, just doing our own thing, doing some building, and we noticed that there was a huge backup in the storage behind us in the ender chest, because all of the centrifuges and stuff were completely backed up as well. And that's because we had completely run out of power. Partially that has to do with the fact that our cables we're using have a very low throughput, but also our generators just aren't going to be cutting it for a lot going forward, because we just simply have too much being powered just off of those two very simple generators. As we start progressing more and more into different mods and various tasks and productions and such, we are going to be needing an absolute ton of power for a lot of different things. And there's a lot of options in this pack for power options, but I think what I want to do is dive a little bit more into the Powah mod and kind of get past the point where we're just scraping the surface. Because up till this point, that's all we've really had is just the most basic of power setups. And I think we can do a little bit better. Now, in the name of not wanting to have a bunch of temporary setups everywhere, we had a little bit of a change of plan with how we're going to end up using the building down by the mob farm there. Because right now, it looks like this building would be the perfect candidate for potential power generation because, well, we have it right on the river system with the water wheel, and this would actually make sense for this to be some sort of power generation facility. At least how it would normally work in the real world. So our plan is to actually come in here and we're going to take all the apotheosis stuff out of this building, which Grace actually has already done. And my plan is to basically construct a tower right there that is going to house our apotheosis enchanting setup. And I think it makes a lot more sense to house all of the really cool enchanting stuff over here at this tower rather than down there where the mob farm is. So in order for us to have power over it back down by the mob from there in that power building, we're going to have to get our refined storage over to that area as well. Now with refined storage, you can obviously just run a cable all the way down there and that would also work technically fine, but there's a much easier and much more clean solution that refined storage adds right into the mod. And that is those 3 items right here: the network card, the network receiver, and the network transmitter. We're going to be needing to get some more processors soon, but let's go and craft 2 transmitters for now. And then we're going to need 2 network receivers. And to link all these together, we have to craft up a couple of these network cards. So how we're going to do this is we have to first put down our network transmitters. And I have dug out a little more space underground here, not because we're going to be putting a lot more down here, but I think this would be a good place just to kind of keep all of our clutter refined storage stuff at. And I think what we're going to do is place all of our network transmitters all down here underground. So if I come down here and grab a little bit of our refined storage cable, let's just bring this down and around. If I just put some cable here, we can put our network transmitters down side by side, just like so. And so I don't get confused, I'd like to label the network transmitters just by putting a sign on them. So for example, we're going to put down this first one is going to go to Power and Mob Farm, and this one will be called the apiary. And if you click inside here, it has a thing that says that we are missing a network card, which is where we would place this card right here. But right now it's not linked to anything at all. To solve this, all we have to do now is go over to where we want to have our new refined storage area. So for example, we can come over to our, what will be the power room, and we're going to make a little spot underground where we can start running some cables. Little 3x3 here. Okay, so here is our underground room where we're going to be running all of our cables for this entire building over even to the mob farm, maybe if we want to automatically hook it in a different way. But for now, what we're going to do is just put down our network transmitter. So let's just place this down right here for now. Take a network card and shift right click on the receiver. I'm going to go ahead and place the network card in the transmitter over here, and you should see the receiver there light up.
Okay. Oh, yep. Pretty.
All right, so now that we have a refined storage access point here, we can kind of start working on our power. Now, to help us out with some power, I think it's going to be time for us to start investing in a little bit of auto crafting capabilities. And what we're going to look for is our crafters. Now, these are different than the crafters from RF Tools. These are actually crafters directly for refined storage, because these are going to be making use of all of our resources in storage to help us with auto crafting. You're going to love the auto crafting, Grace. It's the best thing. It's just the best thing in the world. It's so helpful. You're going to love it. And you better. And if you don't like it, then you try again. All right, so let's craft up this initial crafter right here. So here's what it looks like. I'll place it down. There you go, Grace. You left. It's right there. Boom. That's our auto crafter. And it looks pretty simple, right? Looks pretty basic. It's not hooked in anything. It's just.
It looks like a power outlet.
This is the basic crafter. There is a mod that allows you to increase the capacity of the crafters and get higher tier crafters. So this one is going to be able to upgrade into the iron crafter. And basically what it does is it gives you an extra row of recipes that you can put into it. You basically have to teach it how to make something, and then it remembers in its inventory all of its recipes. The higher tier you craft up, the more recipes it can hold. We have neural processors, and now we can craft up the gold crafter and the diamond crafter, and also a netherite crafter. I hope we have enough power for this right now, but this is the top tier of crafter. I hope it's not going to be too power hungry. That's using 60 FP per tick. So we have enough right now, and we're going to be obviously getting power solved today, so that's not going to be a huge deal. The other thing we have to craft up is something called the pattern grid. Basically, this is the terminal you're going to be interacting with to actually create those patterns. To craft up the pattern grid, we just need one grid, an advanced processor, and a pattern. And I'll place this probably in the back. Like, we'll keep the front just kind of set as our normal storage and crafting grid here, and then we'll place our pattern grid right in the back, so we know that that's always going to be the pattern grid, and this will always be our crafting grid. We do have space for one more crafter in there, and we actually have to fill that space with something so that it actually hooks into it and turns on. So I'm gonna go ahead and craft up one more netherite crafter. Now that's gonna be pretty overkill for the beginning. Most people would start with the basic crafters, but we're not basic around here. No.
We've never been basic a day in our lives.
That top slot on the right with the arrow pointing down, that's where you would put the patterns, the empty patterns. To craft a pattern, you have to have some glass, redstone, and quartz-enriched iron, all of which should be very craftable for us. I thought we had quartz-enriched iron seeds. I guess not. We'll go ahead and make some of those. Pick a recipe that you want to teach our system how to craft.
Okay, we're gonna get it to automatically craft netherite. You just press the create button on the side?
Yep, you press the create button and it'll encode the pattern for you. Place it in one slot of our netherite crafters. We already have netherite ingots in here. We don't need to auto craft them because we already have them. Say we want to make more. What you have to do here is hold Control, Shift, and right click. It brings up a crafting grid and you can tell how many of them you want it to craft for you. Yeah, so for example, I'm just going to go in here and let's just do an example of 1,000. So to craft 1,000 netherite ingots, it requires 4,000 scrap. It tells you what the crafting preview is, like how much it's going to cost in resources, and it should automatically start to craft up what it needs.
It's doing it.
Another thing that's nice to have, just to keep track of what we have crafting at any time, is something called the crafting monitor. Basically, so if something is currently running and you don't know it, you can click on this and it'll show you what's currently being made. If it's going to be like a longer craft, because sometimes some recipes are very complicated and take a little bit longer. So what I'll do is I'll place the crafting monitor one block above here.
Okay.
So currently we have nothing going, so there's nothing showing. Let's teach it how to make oak logs out of the wood essence that we have in the storage. So let's create a pattern and we'll go and place it down here in the crafter beside our netherite. And so now we should be able to come in, select oak logs and tell it to make us 10,000. There we go. It's crafting 10,000 oak logs right now. Oh, it's done. Blink and you'll miss it. Now that we have our logs, one thing I like to do is also do sticks. Here are the oak planks. I want to make sure that we're actually using oak planks to make the sticks because we've only taught it how to make oak planks, not like spruce planks or something. So that's going to be important to keep in mind. Okay, so it is the next real life day. We've been working here and there, doing stuff, doing things. I went and added just a small little frame around our mystical setup, and then I also added a few extra seeds. A lot of the seeds that we already had, I just kind of doubled a lot of them up. Grace has been absolutely cooking on the leaf placement, and she's actually gotten into a little bit of nature's aura to get this tree going, because the nature's aura, that's how the golden leaves here are made, is you have to get, I believe it's called the golden leaf.
You get the golden leaf from these, yeah.
Yeah, the gold leaf. So you have to use, I believe it's like some sort of, is it a powder?
This stuff here, the brilliant fiber.
So you have to use the brilliant fiber here that you craft up with some leaves and gold, and then you basically just apply this to any leaf, and it'll start to spread to other connecting leaves. And once we have all of this golden, it's going to look amazing. I also spent a little bit of time over at the power setup down by the mob farm, and I decided to put a little bit of a roof inside here. It's nothing super fancy, but I just figured having a roof in here to hide the exterior roof would be a good idea, or the exterior, like the really sharp point. I just figured it'd be a little bit nicer inside if we had a little more of a neutral looking roof. So I think this kind of ties the whole thing together nicely. I wanted the lofted ceiling feel. I wanted to feel very tall and grand in here still. Oh, also I added, the elevator obviously goes downstairs to where we're going to have our cabling running. But if you go upstairs, this is also how you get down to the mob farm backpack if you have to. I have a challenge for you. If you pull up the Powah mod, I want you to pin what's called the reactors. Yes.
Which ones do I pin? All of them?
So we're going to be getting as high as we can of these today. For now, what I want you to do as a challenge is to set up all the automations required to get the basic reactor to be able to be auto-crafted.
Oh, okay. You just don't want to do this. You're just making me do this because you don't want to.
I do these...
Just say you're lazy, man. Just say it. I'm underpaid.
Exposure.
I don't want indecency, thank you.
Not indecent exposure. Just exposure.
I would not like to be indecently exposed, thank you. Oh, that's the wrong spot. That's one. How do I get it to make it again?
All right, well, let's take a look and see if you did it right. So if I need to get 36 reactor basics. Oh, we have a problem. You forgot one thing. You set up the crafting recipe for the vertical dielectric rod.
There's two,
but not for the horizontal.
All
right, let's try that again. 36 of our basic reactors, and it looks good. All right, here you go, Grace. Place one of them there, and then get out of the way.
Oh!
It's so cool. I love the way it builds.
I was not expecting it. Oh, that's kind of whack. I like it.
So this is a basic Powah reactor, which is how we're going to be generating our power for the beginning here while we're getting ourselves set up here. We have to first supply this with uranium or the uraninite. So what we're going to have to do is come down underground. We have to find a spot where the reactor is. We should be able to make something called an exporter. Basically what an exporter does, you can configure it to basically send items out of our refined storage network. Any item we want to send, we can send it anywhere we want to. So if we point an exporter into the reactor. So yeah, in the exporter here, we can now select uraninite, which I have made a seed for. So we have enough of it coming in now. Uraninite, we have to have it export the coal blocks, the redstone blocks, and then also we wanted to export blue ice for now. How much do we have in terms of ice? Actually, now that I think about it, will this actually work in the compacting drawers? If it does, that's going to be great. It does. Okay, perfect.
Oh, that's even better.
The only other thing we have to add to the reactor, I think, while that's working, we have to come back here, and there is a slot for fluid. And as you can see, even though the reactor it has ice, it is actually kind of hot still. And that's because you have to keep some sort of fluid in there at all times. You don't actually have to pump fluid into it though, which is the weird thing with this one. Once you put a bucket of water in here, it'll just stay. Effectively, basically thinking of this as like a closed loop. So the water never actually leaves, and the blue ice is kind of what keeps the water cool.
It cools the water. Yeah.
Yeah. So then you can see the temperature of the reactor is dropping now, which means that the actual reactor will run quite a bit faster. Currently, it's not generating a lot of power. This is just a basic tier, so we're going to have to upgrade this kind of as soon as we can. This will get us going for at least the beginning here, and I'm pretty sure for the Powah mod, there is also seeds for all of those energized materials. Energized steel that you're talking about, that you have to make.
Yeah.
You can make energized steel seeds, but
We should do that.
But you need quite a bit of the energized steel to begin with. You need to have energized steel blocks. Let's go ahead and set up the other stuff quick, and let's get an energizing orb setup up and running. So here's where we're going to set up our energizing system. Energizing orb down right here is pretty.
Oh, whoa.
Ah, the steak. No.
No.
Now we're going to put the mechanism cable, and this should start to fill up with power very slowly.
It is.
Very slowly. So this is filling up with power. Now we can put the energizing orbs onto the cables like this, and they should automatically be linked to the energizing orb. We can actually test this thing out. So here, Grace, take 1 block of iron and 1 block of gold and see if it works.
Ah.
Oh, it does. Lasers. Now, I think there is a recipe here where we can actually take iron blocks and craft up the compressed versions of the iron and the gold and then energize those. I think that actually makes it a little bit faster. So we can go ahead and just do that. That should make us 1 compressed energized steel. Oh, we have 2 actually. Oh, that's huge. So that's actually really easy then.
Woohoo.
There we go.
Easy.
I have 4 of them already. So that means that we can craft the seed. So yeah, I'll go and make these seeds really quick. And that is going to be a really easy way to get infinite energized steel. And just like that, we have 36 energized steel coming into the system automatically. But I think before we upgrade to that tier, let's just do 1 more tier up, which is going to be the blazing crystal tier. And again, we can make seeds out of this stuff. The blazing crystal is also going to require 4 compressed blazing crystal blocks. And we can actually, again, use a compressed blaze mesh to go ahead and craft these up. And that's just going to be by crafting up a bunch of blaze rods, which we have plenty of. And there it goes. It's cooking. It's going to take a while, 7.2 million FE. So that's going to use most of our power currently to get that done. We can upgrade to the hardened tier right now because it looks like there's enough power in the cable to finish this 1 craft. So if you want, we could probably break the reactor. We need 36 hardened capacitors. All right, I think we have just enough now. We have 36 hardened capacitors, and we have all of the energized steel that we need for that. So let's go ahead and start that auto craft up, which means that we can now upgrade our basic reactors up to the hardened tier. Now we have to go ahead and put our basics inside here, and there we go, 36 hardened reactors. And now we can go and place them back down, and this is now going to be producing us, it looks like 2.3 thousand FE per tick, which is pretty good. Not like that great, but definitely better than the basic tier. All we have to do is go ahead and use our blazing mesh here to get a couple more of these blocks of blazing crystals, and then we can turn these into the seeds. So now we just kind of play the waiting game of let this stuff charge up, and once this is finished charging up, we'll come back and craft up the blazing seeds. Grab 4 of those, and here comes our blazing crystal seed. Oh wow, we got a reward from the quest here for a solar panel, a blazing solar panel that produces 1,500 FE per tick. For now, we'll keep it. We can just use this as like a portable source of power if we have to. While I'm making all these seeds, I also noticed that there are bees for every single material from Powah as well. And it looks like they're actually really good. For example, the Nitro crystal bee, when it produces a comb, you can centrifuge the comb for a guaranteed 1 Nitro crystal, which is actually insane considering you're going to be getting this in block form, and the block form can basically give you 4 Nitro crystal for every comb block. Realistically, Grace is probably going to do that off camera because she likes to degen bee stuff. So
yes,
just so you are aware, that is a very good way to get to the Powah materials as well. I'm going to go ahead and make all of the seeds still anyway because I think it's fun to have them. We'll probably end up getting the bees for those different materials as well. All right, I think it's time for a little bit of an upgrade for our setup here. So first of all, we're going to upgrade our energizing orbs. So we're going to grab all of these back, and then we also are going to upgrade our reactor to the blazing reactor as well. Yeah, so we can go ahead and take all of our basics here and upgrade them to the hardened tier pretty much right away. We're going to make sure we have 9 of them. We should have everything we need to go to the next tier as well. We have no blazing capacitors, but maybe we can make 18 of them. Yep, that's how many we need to upgrade. And now we can upgrade these again to go to the blazing tier. And now we just have to upgrade our reactor itself. So let's go back and grab the old reactor stuff. Let's grab our reactor one more time here. We have everything we need. Get that started and place it right back down again. All right, so this one is now producing us 9,500 FE per tick, which is pretty good.
it's getting faster.
It's getting faster, and by the time we get to the absolute fastest tier, which is the Nitro reactor, we can generate 250,000 FE per tick, which is going to be pretty good for the mid-game power.
Unlimited power.
I'm just finishing up the last of the 4 blocks of the compressed niotic, which is the diamond blocks. And as you can see here, we're running out of power. This isn't quite producing quite enough to get the compressed block done, but that's okay. It doesn't have to go at the top speed. It just has to get the job done. So
Yeah,
once we have this,
it's doing its best.
it's doing it. And once we have this done, then we can craft the niotic seeds. And then after that, there's 2 more tiers, which is going to be the spirited seeds, which are emeralds. And then finally, there is the nitro seeds, which involve, I'm pretty sure, yeah, we need a nether star. So that's going to be a little pricier, but we have plenty of nether stars, so not super worried about that. But yeah, we just have a bunch of kind of just the same crafting to do. And hopefully when we come back, we should have a pretty good reactor setup with hopefully a fully maxed out energizing orb setup too. Okay, it's the next real life day, and we have been doing a little bit of work here. Grace has been doing quite a bit of work with the bees, getting all the different resources from Powah automated through our honeycombs. She has the blazing bee in this one right here. So this is actually going through a little bit of backlog right now. We upgraded all the hives with some of these higher tier upgrades now that we have the Heart of the Seas coming in. So a lot of these have gotten a lot faster. So we've had to up our production back here. I have an all-the-modium furnace now that's working, but our main bottleneck actually is power right now. We have a tendency to run out of power. Our little thermogens back in here. So we're going to have to...
They're doing their best.
They're trying. The long-term solution is just going to be to have a point here. Once we have a reactor pumping millions of power out, we can then have just one point on the cable, and that'll supply more than enough power for all of our centrifuges. Also, she went ahead and made the niotic crystal bees and the spirited crystals. These are the ones that require they require some of the blocks of the material. So in this case, the spirited crystal, which is made from the emerald in the energizing orb, as well as 2 of the previous tiers bees, 1 emerald bee, and then 10 million power, which creates 1 of these spawn eggs. And she went ahead and made 5 of those, so that is pumping out an absolute ton of spirited crystal. The only bee that we have yet to do is the nitro bee. We figured we'd save that one and finish it all off on camera. But you went ahead and gathered all that up, didn't you? I think I saw the chest very briefly. I think she has so nicely laid out every single recipe here. And so for one bee is going to require 2 blocks of the nitro crystal, 1 or 2 of the spirited crystal bees, which is actually crazy because that also requires 2 of the previous ones, and so on and so on. So I'm sure that wasn't a quick job.
No, not at all. Especially because the spirited bees, they don't breed with each other. The blazing ones, they breed amongst themselves. The niotic ones breed amongst themselves. But the Spirited ones don't. So what I had to do is I had to breed them all up, and then I had to squish them, and about 5 bees makes 1 egg, because it was 5 spirited bees equals 1 egg. But each of those spirited bees needed to be individually converted because they can't breed amongst themselves. It was a lot.
So to craft then the final bee here, it's going to take 2 billion power. And currently we just don't have, well, we have the resources to make more. And I think what the plan is going to be before we start going to get all 5 of these final tier bees set up is I think we're going to upgrade our reactor here to the spirited tier, which is the tier right before the nitro crystal. And I think we're also going to upgrade the energizing rods because that'll make the whole thing go a lot faster. And we can take it now, and before we even set this up, we can go right to the next tier, which is the spirited tier. So here is our spirited reactor getting set up again. Perfect. 9 spirited energizing rods are complete, and we can put them back on our setup here, and now we're basically ready to start crafting up the bee. It might still take quite a bit of time because unfortunately this is still not the fastest reactor and we only have the one. We could hook up technically more reactors, but I think I'd rather wait until we have the niotic stuff. No, not niotic, nitro.
Nitro.
The words are all the same to me. Wow, that's going to require a lot of power. Oh, wow, we're at 1%. Okay, so
Yeah,
I'm thinking if we're going to do 5 of these, we might just set up a couple more reactors here because
We have enough supplies.
we have the stuff. It's just going to speed the whole process up. So we'll just upgrade these after. Actually, I think we have some dry ice to use up in our storage right now that we
dry
found.
ice is in the machine.
I know.
Is it in there?
No, I know, but for the other reactors, I'm not going to export it from the storage, but I'll just put it in manually for now, I think, because it's just going to make them run a little faster. So if we just hook this in now, hopefully to these reactors, let's see if that keeps our power sustained. They are all draining, so I'm not sure if this is going to be enough to keep up. Currently, it looks like our limiting factor is
The rods.
well, interestingly enough, it's not the rods per se, because the rods are taking in 40,000 and sending 40,000 all the time, which is interesting. I'm not sure why they're still glitching like that. Oh, see, once you replace them, break and replace them, they don't. Yeah, see, now they're consistent. No, it's still draining. Okay. Well, it's not perfect, but it's definitely going to be faster than what it was before. Maybe we'll let the bee produce us a little bit more of the nitro crystal, and then what we can do is use that to maybe upgrade all of these to the highest tier reactors, and then we can go ahead and do the other 4 bees.
How much of the nitro do we need to make the reactor?
Looks like 144 per reactor. Per reactor.
That won't take long at all.
All right, we're coming close to being done here. We're at 96%. Oh, look at it.
You
He's
ready?
beautiful. Let's see him. Oh, look at him.
Hey man, he's currently normal and weak and passive and not weather tolerant.
But now,
Okay, time to get that thing going. How much are we getting? 1 bee after 1 cycle.
in the meanwhile, while we're waiting for that to go down, there is one thing that I haven't crafted up this entire series that I'm actually surprised I haven't bothered with. And that is something called the time in a bottle. This is essentially a way that you can store time while you're active on the server or in your world, and you can spend that time to speed up various machines and blocks and all sorts of stuff. So to craft one of these time in a bottles up, we pretty much have everything we need. All we have to do is craft up some of these speed augments, and those are done inside the infusion altar setup here. So let's go ahead and see if we can do that. So now we can go ahead and craft up our time in a bottle. It takes some unobtainium, both the augments, a speed augment, and then a couple other small things, an enchanting bottle and lapis, and we'll get the time in a bottle all ready to go. And as we can see, if we're holding this inside of our inventory, it is accumulating time. Now, if you have this in your backpack, it actually will not count towards your time, so be careful of that. But in case anyone has never seen this before, what we can actually do is just shift right click on something that you can speed up. So for example, say I want to speed up our nitro crystal bee, I can just shift right click. Once we probably have, I think, 30 seconds of time in here, it needs to have a certain amount to actually be able to use. So maybe that'll work. Yeah, there we go. So now we times 2 the speed. So now we're basically just making this whole process go a little bit faster. I don't like to use the time in a bottle all that much because I like to have my resources coming in at the rate that I actually need them. I don't like to rely on the time in a bottle a lot, but it just is kind of more of a quality of life thing, just to have a couple things done a little bit faster. All right, so just after a little bit of time here, after I use the time in a bottle, we have 166 nitro crystals. So we need to have, I believe it was 144 to make the Nitro reactor. So that's going to be enough to upgrade one of our reactors to the Nitro tier. And I'm going to make this whole setup a little bit nicer. I think I have a cool design idea that I want to do for the energizing orbs and the rods. I don't want to have it kind of staying like this. This is kind of awful looking. So I will change this out once we have everything upgraded, but for now, let's go ahead and just upgrade one of our reactors. And wow, even in that time, I just literally came down from the building down to here, and we already have another round of production, and we have 310 now. So we're basically almost at the amount we'd need for all 3 reactors. There we go, 36 of the Nitro reactors. Awesome. And I can actually do the exact same thing with the other one as well, because we have enough stuff here to do this pretty much right away. After all 3 of these reactors are up, we should be all ready to craft up the last 4 bees. And realistically, we probably don't even need them, but just in the interest of using our resources and filling out the hives, it's more for the completion sake than anything else. All right, so all 3 of our reactors have been upgraded to the Nitro tier. And I did a little bit of work here, just designing up a nicer spot for our energizing orb, which is now sitting down below. What I've done down here is I have a couple of modular routers that are configured to basically send and grab items. Yeah, so they should be all configured to send and receive from our modular router here. And this is just going to be for manual crafting of some resources. For example, this one is going to be just whatever we put in the barrel will be sent over to the orb, energized, and then will be grabbed by this modular router and then put back into the barrel. Now, there is also down there, I have put a crafter from refined storage. I haven't actually hooked it up yet, but if we ever wanted to automate the energizing orb and have some resources automatically pumped into our storage or kept in stock somehow, that's going to be how we do it. We're going to automate that using refined storage. All of our energizing orbs down here ready to go. They all have power from some points underground here. If you take a look in here really quick, basically what I have is just some cable and then also 1 point, and 1 point is providing power for each corner. But with all that being said, Grace, should we start crafting up our bee here?
Yeah, let's go for it. I got some of the stuff, so I'll come on down and put it in.
All right, so we need 2 nitro blocks and then all the bees, and that should automatically all get sent down there if I'm not mistaken. And yep, it is crafting up quite a bit faster than it was before, so we're already at 25%. We are draining our buffer, but I think the buffer is going to be large enough that it'll probably actually finish pretty quick. This manual setup doesn't let us just dump a bunch of items in here automatically because it doesn't stop it from sending items. So it can stop the craft if you send too much of one type. So this is kind of more of just a real manual way to do it. Oh, there we go. And there is the Nitro bee. The Nitro crystal bee needs to be blacklisted on the sender.
Put in the container, yeah.
I love small automations like this. They're just fun. All right, and after a little bit more time here, I did a little bit of detail and design work, which I'll show in a sec. But first of all, Grace has got all 5 of our bees.
Well, one's already in the hive, but here are the rest.
Here are the rest of our Nitro bees. So this is going to be all of the production we're going to need, and definitely overkill for what we need, but that's okay. We'll fill the hives out. And right now we have currently 750 Nitro crystal just from our one little guy, but these 4 will make that quite a bit more. But this will take care of our Nitro needs and all of our power needs probably for a good little while. And yeah, so I did a little bit of designing here. I actually put a facade on these, and I decided to put a little bit of a decoration up here. I added a small balcony on top here, and this might house a certain something to store some power in a little bit more late game, but that for now is just going to kind of be a decorative place, not super functional, but I think it ends up looking really nice in here now. But I think that's going to be a great place to wrap up this episode. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. I really hope you did enjoy. If you did enjoy, feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Also, if you haven't already, be sure to join the Discord. The link is in the description down below. But that's it for me, everybody. I hope you all have a good one, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Bye!
Bye!